been 3 weeks since my wife, Amelia, and I were forced to flee our home. We finally found safety at an inn near the edge of the city. I write this on singed papers collected from the now burning streets. I want to make sure people know what happened and what we saw. That night, we heard a commotion outside. I thought it was a fight at the tavern or another escaped convict, but no. I saw the entire street on fire as men and women fought each other with primal rage, their skin melting like wax from a candle. As the world began to burn around us, the incessant screeching and chanting of those apostates, those fanatics, still rings through my ears. With my daughter Anne in my arms, Amelia and I fled from our burning cottage as an enormous fanatic, skin red, eyes burned away, and a gritted maw rampaged through our home. We may have lost our home, but we were still the fortunate ones. Ruin surrounded us. We watched in horror as our neighbours, Ezekiel and Henrietta, were dragged from the rubble of their once simple home. I could do nothing but hold Anne and Amelia in my arms as we hid in the stone sewers. I'll never forget Ezekiel's cries as they drove their hooks through him. Most of the fanatic's limbs were removed and crudely replaced with prosthetics of metal. Hooks, whips, bombs from the city's garrisons. All these melted and infused instruments attached to the writhing and melted bodies of these monsters. Ezekiel went first. They lifted him by the embedded hooks in his chest. His entrails poured across the ground, and his cries were lost in the blazing inferno of our once beautiful city. He hung there, below the bridge leading towards the rubble of his home. Henrietta would be spared such a ghastly fate, only to be brought to whom the heretics called her ladyship herself. A tall woman, burned and severed arms of her kin hung from her waist. Her face was covered in a dirty white hood, with a red circle donning the crown of her head. Chains hung loosely from her wrists, attached to the bottom of her blackened cuirass. Only a crimson mouth, with bloody black teeth, could be seen below her hood. She seemed to almost smile, if I could even call it that, as the fanatics drug Henrietta before her. She leaned down to cusp Henrietta's face in her hand. Almost motherly, I thought. Henrietta's pleas for life seemed to subside briefly as I saw her ladyship drag her finger across what I believed to be Henrietta's mouth. Her ladyship placed her smouldering hands on the side of Henrietta's face as I heard what sounded like a muffled scream behind the door. Henrietta's face began to bubble as the fanatic leader's hands engulfed in flames. No tears fell. They evaporated, along with her eyes. I clutched Amelia and Anne in my arms as I prayed to light for our safety. And if not, I only hoped it would be quick. Her ladyship and her fanatics left Henrietta's charred body in the middle of the street as they moved deeper into the city. The great library looming in the distance. I could not bear to look at that burning pyre of damnation. Everywhere we went, fire and rubble as far as the eye could see stretched before us. We ducked through putrid alleyways and burning parks to escape the fanatic's grasp, but we encountered another group. Men and women garbed in red cloth were rifling through the remnants of burnt homes and shops. Hoods were pulled over most of their faces as their hounds kept a close watch on the neighbouring side streets. As we hid in a far-off alley, an olive-skinned woman with beads and jewellery hanging from her neck and a red bandana pulled tightly across her face led the ruffians through the crumbling city. She was holding a peculiar, censer-like object as smoke billowed from the demonic face that served as its opening. Gold trinkets and baubles, these things were snatched from the burning display cases and homes as the group made their way through. We moved through the alleyway and ran down the city's high street as we came upon a wondrous sight. People. A dishevelled carriage with about half a dozen citizens was parked on the side of the street. I recognised a few of them from around the marketplace as we approached them. An elderly man with a balding head and sunken but kind eyes was beckoning us over. He gave the three of us cups of water and scraps of bread as a rumbling sound came down the high street. A carriage, led by two large warhorses, was smashing through debris and charred remains as it approached us. Boxes, equipment and luggage were haphazardly strapped to the mobile fortress as it came to stop before the group of survivors. The carriage door opened, revealing 4 individuals before us. An old grizzled man, adorned in heavy armour, a sergeant or some sort of military station with a bloodied shield and a gore-covered maw. Another man, younger, with dark hair and blackened eyes, with a red cowl brought up to his nose. A pistol hung lazily about his grip as a sharpened dagger was sheathed in his belt. A Sister of the Light, adorned with plate armour, wielding a mace and a large tome chained to her waist. And finally, a most peculiar sight, a court jester, with blades and daggers strapped along his body. He was humming a haunting tune as he walked before us. There was muttering from this ragged band, some positioned into taking from us the little we had, including the stale bread resting in my limp, burned fingers. But the younger man with black hair looked to me and reached for the side with his sheathed dagger. I moved in front of Amelia and Anne as he unsheathed a bag with a few coins and treasures within it. He then asked for directions for the road ahead. I gave the best information I could in my stupefied state. The 4 seemed to nod in mutual agreement and loaded back into their carriage. We all watched in disbelief as the pair of horses thundered them down the high street, heading towards the great library. The bag of loose gold and baubles laid quietly in my hand. We used the gold to pay a group of mercenaries for protection to the local inn. There are still heroes out there, surviving, fighting back this madness. I have found my resolve, and I will keep my family safe in these dark days and offer what assistance I can to other survivors. Even now, as the darkness shrouds the world, I still feel a semblance of hope.